Okay, welcome to Real People. This is Stephanie Allensworth with doing part 2 with Cat Thompson, and we are going to pick it up where we left off with her retreat, and I would love for you to talk about it.
Okay.
It's in Mexico?
Yes, it's in Mexico. The home of my heart. I always call Mexico the home of my heart. I was not planning on doing another retreat, quite frankly. It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I always feel in some ways like I'm a chess piece that my ancestors are moving across the board. I know when it's me making decisions, and I know when it's them kind of pushing me. And a long time ago, when I first started moving into this emotional intelligence world, I made a pact with Mother Earth. I said, I will be your chess piece. You push me where you want me to go, and I'll follow up on it. And so I feel like for a lot of my life, I was being directed in that way. And the way that this happened, of course, synchronicity is how the secret commonwealth speaks to you. Synchronicity and, you know, these things that happen randomly, but then, you see that there's a pattern behind them, and, you know, these kind of. So the synchronicity was that several years ago, I ran into a woman I knew many years earlier who had done a workshop with me. And we ran into each other at the airport, and she said, "Oh, well, when COVID hit, I went to Mexico and bought some land and built a retreat center." I was like, "Wow!" So I was going to go visit her that year, and then didn't because it was a ways away. Mm-hmm. Then I was going to go last year, and I ended up not going again for other reasons. And then she contacted me just sort of out of the blue, and she said, "I think you should do a retreat here."
Oh, wow. Talk about synchronicity.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay. So we had our first meeting, and we talked about what we wanted it to look like. And of course, it's changed considerably since then, but I'm super proud of it. So it's a rebirthing the feminine, or rebirthing the divine, not rebirthing, but reawakening the divine feminine. Because I cannot help but notice that there is a global war on the feminine right now.
Sure, boy, yeah.
And so many of the changes that we've been able to make in the last 50 years are coming under fire. And I'm like, why is that? Like, why is it? And of course, I have my own reasons for of what I believe that to be, because I understand that there's so much power in feminine energy. But the thing that I think needs to be said over and over again is men and women both are 50% feminine and 50% masculine. And I feel like women have spent the last 50 years kind of exploring their masculine side and becoming more responsible for that. I feel like it's now that masculine side needs to also come into a better harmony with their feminine energy. But why is the patriarchy so afraid of feminine energy? You know, think of the witch burnings. Think of the laws and the rules that have been in place for thousands of years to make women a second-class society. Why is that? And so we're going to explore a lot of that in here, and we're going to be really focusing on opening up the trauma field that is in our DNA from the women behind us, and bringing it into the light and changing it. That is going to be the purpose of it. So it's scheduled so that people have plenty of time to, you know, be in paradise and enjoy their afternoons at the pool or on walks or bike rides or whatever. But every night we have a healing circle, and then our class time is 9 to 1. That's it.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and we do yoga in the morning. And
no, I think I need to go to your retreat.
Yes, I wish you would. It's going to be fabulous. And so what the ancestors said to me, and my sister's now an ancestor, so she's up there with everybody else, take everything you've learned and put it together and get it out there in a package. So these are all things. Every day we'll be addressing one of the 5 master emotions, and grief will be the first day. Because grief is the beginning of the cycle. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm hoping, so this is the interesting thing too. This has been a tough year for me for some other reasons, and I have been really wondering, what do what do I want the rest of my life to look like? I couldn't find a vision or a dream or a, I didn't have a passion for anything. I just felt like I'd done it. I achieved the passions that I had set out to achieve, and I didn't have anything to replace them. Oh. And I remember an ex-boyfriend saying to me one time that the reason he didn't let go of things was because if something ended, there would be nothing left. It was his way of explaining a sort of a hoarding behavior. But I often thought about that, and I was like, well, that's silly, because once you've completed something, then there's just something else to do. But interestingly enough, I haven't been really, in the last few years, haven't really had a passion that has pushed me. My whole life I've had a passion that's pushed me, and that's what's kept me going. Mm-hmm. And so not having a passion, everything kind of got really small and really quiet. And so I spent all of this year just being in small and quiet to see how that felt. And when she contacted me about doing this retreat, it was like my body for the first time in several years had like this glimmering of passion, energy. And it's like, yes, because I love teaching retreats. I love going on retreat.
And you love Mexico.
And I love Mexico, of course. Who doesn't love Mexico? And so now this, for me, I'm like, okay, now you have something to look forward to. Now you have something to work towards. I found my energy starting to come back. Like I knew that I wanted to have a newsletter out today, the brochure, the webpage up for the retreat center. And to make sure that everybody knew that the book was now available on Amazon.
Yeah, you want to just briefly talk about your book real quick?
Yeah,
mentioned it?
And of course I forgot to bring, I had some grief on the way here. I was like, oh no, grief, I forgot to bring a book.
Doggone it, it just crept in.
So the name of the book is The Secret Language of Emotion, and the subtitle is Decoding the Mystery of Feelings. And this is the second edition, and I finally got it on Amazon as a paperback and a Kindle version. So
very good.
You can find that, or you can find it on my website. If you don't want to buy through Amazon, you can buy it directly from me. Emotionaltechnologies.com is the name of the website. So in 2 days, I pulled off something that I've been struggling with for months, which was just to write a newsletter,
Yeah.
I'm like,
I saw it, and it's like all of a sudden you got your fire back, lady.
Yeah, I got a little mojo back. Little mojo back. So
and it only took one phone call.
Well, it was more than a phone call. But
yes, out of the blue.
Out of the blue, that it was a text message actually. Yeah.
But it's the start.
It was the start.
The little spark that started the flame.
And I could have said no.
Why would you?
But why would I? Exactly. It's like, yeah, of course, I would love to. So, and her place is exquisite. I've only seen pictures of it. I will be going there in January to really get some time there. But she's got a labyrinth right in the middle.
And I see that on the picture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she, her name is Paula, and she created 3 standalone birthing centers when she was, in her former life. So she's a doula, midwife. She's all about birth.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is such a great collaboration between the two of us.
Yeah, rebirth.
Because the rebirthing and the,
It's kind of the rebirthing of you.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yes, and I'm hoping that it will be the rebirthing of everyone who comes.
Yeah,
everyone who
I could use a little rebirthing right now.
I know. Who couldn't, right? Yeah. But there's something and will be within the secret commonwealth because she's in the jungle. So there's not going to be lights. We're going to have these magnificent stars to look at. You can swim at night, swim under the stars.
Oh, I love that.
It'll be wonderful.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'm gonna, do a little more of a deep dive onto that and check it out and go to your website. The funny thing about grief for me is, I had, I experienced grief really early in life with my great aunt that I love so much passing, and then having, people my aunts and uncles and things like that. And I had like a solid 10 years, actually 20 years, of my husband's family dying, which wasn't such a big target for me. But then after his calmed down, mine just decimated. And I didn't grieve. The last time I grieved was for my cat. And I watched one of my dogs. I sat with my dog while she died, and I watched my cats come in. I had 2 cats at the time, and they came in and said their goodbyes to her. And it was at 5 o'clock in the morning in my hallway. And I sat on the stairs and talked to her and told her what a good dog, I'm going to cry now.
That's okay.
Tell her
That's
what a
why I
good
brought
dog she was. And that it was okay for her to go. She didn't have to protect me anymore, you know. And that was my way of kind of releasing her and her burden of trying to stay alive for me. And honestly, she was my sister's dog first. And when my sister died, they were going to send her to a shelter. And I said, not over my dead body.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I forced him to go let me into the house, and I took her cat and her dog and said, these were my sister's children, there's no way. But then the part of me that is the fixer part of me, because I'm a heavy duty fixer, I started making sure everything was in order for every single person. It was my sister, then my mom, and then 2 of my brothers, and actually 3 of them, 3 brothers. And all through that, it's like I was focused on fixing things for everybody and never actually grieved until it was my cat.
Well, and so here's an interesting thing about animals. We let animals in the places of our heart that we don't let humans in. Animals occupy a unique place in our heart, especially dogs, because they are unconditionally loving. And we don't meet people who are unconditionally loving, right? That's
It's
just
rare.
not something that
I know
happens
some
very
now.
And so we let animals into a certain place in our heart, and of course their lives are very short compared to us. So, you know, if you love animals, it's guaranteed you're going to have your heart broken at least 10 times in your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that heartbreak is supposed to, the grief that comes from heartbreak like that kind of loss, that where you lose an unconditional love, that kind of grief is about breaking the heart open, smashing it into smithereens, because then there's more room to put the heart back together, to have bigger love, to have better love, to have more unconditional love. And so animals, I think, come to show us what unconditional love feels like so that we get it and that we can then practice it in our own lives. And I am constantly, like, I have conversations with myself every single day about being better at letting go of conditional love. Because it's so embedded. I came from a very judgmental family structure where, you know, love was extremely conditional, and having to, you know, work through those. And of course that goes back to the ancestor line, you know, all that DNA that's in your bones and in your body from how many generations of conditional loving. We got a heavy load here to heal.
Yeah.
And but we are the generation, the people who are here right now, we came here to do this because the human race will not survive this if we don't get it together, if we do not heal all of that trauma, because it's just repeating itself and it's escalating constantly. We need to stop it, and we don't have the power to go, you know, to world leaders and tell them to, you know, get in the ring and take it, you know, duke it out. We don't have that power. We only have the power to heal it within our own bodies, because if people didn't have trauma embedded in their bodies, they wouldn't be able to be manipulated.
That's true. And manipulation is a huge tactic that a lot of, you know, people, we'll just use that word, use on us, and it never so much as in the here and now. And
Well,
we don't even know about it.
Yeah.
We're so blind to it that
Yeah.
we don't see it happening.
And that's the other thing, is that it's time for us to wake up.
Wake up.
We've been asleep for a long time.
Well, this is a pattern that's repeating from even back in World War I.
And probably much earlier than that
Oh, yeah.
as well.
Probably the beginning of time.
Yeah.
You know, one of my conversations that I have, and I'm going to do a part 2 one with another talent tomorrow, is on propaganda and how we fall for it because it keeps coming at us from the same place over and over and over, and we've become trustworthy of the things that we shouldn't be trustworthy of. So
It's because we're wired for story. Human beings are wired for story. Before the age of technology, what did we do? We sat around
We
the
told
fire and we
stories.
shared stories together. Stories are the structure that keep our life together. And now
and our history.
we have, you know, bazillions of stories going around. It used to be that, you know, your culture would tell you what story you were born into, and then they would, you know, do everything they could to make sure that you stayed in that story and kept it going, right? That's how these stories gain power, is when they can convince you that that is the truth, and then you put your belief in there. Your belief is the most important asset that we have as human beings. What we choose to believe in makes it real.
Yeah.
So if any culture can tell you a story and convince you that it's real, the more people that believe that story, the more real that story becomes in the three-dimensional world, right?
Yeah.
So now we have like so many stories, and people are like, I don't know what to believe anymore, you know, it's all disinformation. Yes, it's always been disinformation. The whole point of having an emotional body is to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Your heart will tell you what's true. But with all of the
For
noise,
me, it's right here in the old gut.
Okay.
You know, the gut tells me.
Yep.
I get that if it's not feeling truthful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you have a gut brain, a heart brain, and a brain, right? This is the slowest. This is the second fastest, but the heart is the fastest. It's just that for a lot of us, because we don't know how to translate what we're feeling in our heart, we translate it into our gut. And so those are the 3 brains in the body. That's scientifically proven. They've proven that the gut brain is much faster than this brain, and that the heart brain is the fastest of them all.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what you're feeling, you can't translate it,
Yeah.
right? So that's been my work for, you know, the last 3 decades. My desire is to teach people how to understand and translate what they're feeling, so that they know what the messages are that are coming from the heart, from the gut, you know,
Yeah.
from the body.
Yeah. Listening to our bodies is really important.
Yeah.
Just as much as listening to the trees and the water and
Right.
the birds, and I love listening to all of
Well,
nature.
and that's a good point, because that kind of takes us all back around to the full circle, which is, if you are not in your body, you will never hear the secret commonwealth. You have to be in your body. So really the most important thing I could say to anybody right now is get in your body with power, with strength, with love, you know, with joy, with, you know, I loved being strong. I loved being flexible, you know, and I've kind of been not following through on that as much as I would like to be,
Yeah.
partly because I have chronic Lyme, and after my sister died, it was like, boom, I was down for 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm just coming out of it now. So of course, first thing I'm doing is going back to yoga once a week, because once a week is not a lot, but it's enough for my body. My body has great memory, and it's like, oh, I remember how to do this. Oh yeah, oh, I remember how to do this.
Yeah.
And then when I'm out, to constantly be like, put your heart out, you know, open your heart up. Don't be closing down, but open your heart out, open your heart out.
Yeah.
And then deal with how that feels, because sometimes opening my heart out is frightening. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't want to do that. I'd rather just stay home and curl up like this.
Yeah. I'm kind of the opposite. I like to stay busy, but I've been I've been a little bit struggling with where my joy is going to come from, because I've been sampling things, trying to figure out you know, first of all, how I'm going to survive not having any money, because you know,
Cancel clear.
yeah, cancel clear.
Different resources.
Yeah, but you know, I want to do something that's going to give me that joy, and I'm not finding it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep looking,
Yep.
and I'm going to keep, you know.
And that's, I think, part of what happens. We're baby boomers, so we got brought up in a structure that we thought was real. And when you take that structure away, you have to say to yourself, okay, I'm not going to be rewarded for this and this and this and this anymore, because that was all based on, you know, a story that is no longer applicable, right? So now I am completely responsible for creating joy. And how does that happen? I went through this last year, 2024. I decided, because I felt so much stress when things were on my calendar. So I'm like, that's it. That's why you didn't hear from me all year. Because I was like, that's it. I'm not putting anything on my calendar. I'm just going to see how I feel every single day when I get up. And it was so hard, because the first thing, as soon as I opened my eyes, my to-do list was right there in the air. And I'd be like, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And then I'd be like, I don't want to do any of it. And I'd say to my daughter, I'm not doing anything today. And she's like, good, you shouldn't. But then the next thing that happened was, what's my value then? If I'm not doing something, what's my value? And if I'm not doing something, am I just taking up space on the planet? You know, those are things that go through my head.
Well, just consider it, you're taking a break. You know, you're just taking a break.
And that's the kind of thing that I had to work through. You know, all year was like, what if you don't have any expectations of yourself? That free fall that happens when you take your structures away is terrifying. And what you were talking about, trying to find your joy, that's free fall. Because whatever the structures were from our youth that gave us joy, we've either accomplished them and they're done, or we haven't. Now that the structures are changing so much, we don't know where we fit, or we don't know what's, you know, what are we going to do? What's expected of us? Or what do I expect of myself? I mean, we're really in free fall right now. And I've taken this year to see if I can be, if not comfortable, at least not terrorized by being in free fall, right? To see, you know, like, if I don't have any expectations of myself or my life, will things still happen that are unexpected and
joyful?
That's the big question for me is, if I'm not working at something, will things still come to me that are cool?
Obviously,
yes. So that was my whole year answer right there was, yes, things can still come if you don't have those expectations of yourself.
It's funny, I'm a taskmaster. I get up and I make my bed right away, and I get to my to-do list and I check them off, and I feel accomplishment when I do that. But I don't harass myself too much if I don't do something. I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it today, so maybe later, maybe tomorrow. You know, we'll get to that one. It's not critical, you know. So I guess I don't see myself in free fall. I'm just kind of in hover mode.
Let me ask you this.
I'm in hover mode.
If we took your to-do list away from you and you weren't allowed to have one, what would happen in your life?
I would still get up and make my bed every day, and that would be my first task.
Okay. But so it's about tasking, right? It's about getting things done. And if you were not allowed to do anything.
Well, if I was an invalid and all I could do is lay in my bed, then that would be the worst thing that could happen to me, because I can't lay around for too long or I'll seize up.
Yep. So that's an interesting thing, because so much of aging is that's what happens. People break a hip, or they somehow they lose, they end up immobile for a period of time. And of
Right.
course, when you are immobile for a period of time, you lose muscle mass, you lose energy, you lose stamina, you lose all that stuff. And coming back from those things can be overwhelming, which is, I think, that's why oftentimes for older people, a fall leads to their death eventually, because they can't really come back from that.
Yeah.
So I know that healthy aging is this desire for me to be, in my body with power and flexibility. And it is when I have a Lyme episode, I can be down for a week.
Yeah.
And it's hard to come back from that. It's hard to get back up and, it's like, okay, go to the gym. Just get in the car, take your bag, and go to the gym. And I can find 500 reasons why I just can't go to the gym that day.
Yeah. It's funny, I tell myself that just about every day. I'm going to get up and I'm going to make my bed and I'm going to go to the gym. And then I'm like, whoa, jeepers, I got to do this. So,
Yeah.
that
Squirrel. Squirrel.
That closet needs cleaning. This
Yes,
drawer.
exactly.
Who put this stuff in this drawer?
Yeah,
this way?
exactly.
It's
There's
like-
so many little things you can do around the house to keep you from. So I find that kind of interesting for myself, that there's so much that I have this huge desire to be in my body with strength and flexibility, and I also have this huge resistance to doing it. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to give yourself a break,
Yeah.
But, I see this Cat Thompson right here in front of me, the Cat Thompson that's strong and powerful and knows what she wants and is going to do it. And even if you don't see that in yourself right now, I do very clearly.
Thank you. And
So
that's why we have friends.
I can actually see it in your aura right now.
Thank you.
Because I got that little gift too, that little magic.
And that's why we have friends.
Yeah.
An old friend, last week I was having a really bad day. I was feeling really
You have a purple aura right now.
Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. I was feeling really, really at one of my lowest points. And a friend called me from someone who I haven't spoken to for probably a decade. And she was just like, you're the smartest person I've ever known. You are fabulous. You are blah, blah. And she just went off on this thing. And I'm like, oh my God, she's reminding me who I can be, who I was, who I am, who I
you
can
still
be
are,
again.
just on a break.
Yeah. And so it's important for us to have people who do know us at our best and can be there for us when we're at our worst.
Yeah.
And that's part of the biggest loss for me and my sister, because she was my go-to person when I was in those really dark places. She knew exactly what to say to walk me out. And there was some fear of losing that. And then this woman called me. She's coming into town next week, and we're going to go have dinner. So
Awesome. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all need to be reminded every now and again of our power and our strength and the beauty. There's I put this out on my Facebook page just a while back about being kind. Just being kind to people and stop this division and this hate and this anger that serves nobody. It serves no purpose. If it's serving anybody, it's the people that are creating it behind the curtain.
Yeah.
So we don't want to serve them.
Yes.
We're here, to service the world, the globe, the thing that we're living on that is actually alive.
Yeah.
The planet is alive.
Yep.
And it's our host. We should be kind to our hosts. They kind of get back to where we exactly started.
Yeah. Well, and I think this again all goes back to ancestral trauma. We are at a tipping point in the world right now where our spirit is saying, if you don't resolve this, the species is done. There will be there'll be a reset.
Yeah.
We'll get
Wiped out
whatever.
again.
Another comet hits the asteroid hits the Earth or whatever it is.
I know. I see that crap all the time, and excuse me for saying the C word, but it's like, well, again?
Well, because
I thought we had this last month.
if we keep coming back to the same place and doing the same things over and over again, we're going to end up in the same place. So I feel like I chose to be here at this time because I thought I could make a difference. And I feel like so many of the people that I know also made that choice. So it's like, all right, then let's
All
make a
of us
difference.
did.
Then
All of
let's
us.
make a difference. Let's do something different.
And you are, my dear.
And
you are.
this is my
This is
my
this,
big hurrah for, my
you
final
know what?
hurrah.
I want to help you with this too because that's who I am.
I appreciate that. I appreciate having friends like you.
Well, and it's the type of thing I like to do, and I think I can benefit from a retreat as well. So, hey, if you're out there and you want a retreat, we're going to tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
And where to go and have the best retreat ever. Cat Thompson's Rebirthing the
Sacred.
Reawakening the Divine Feminine. And I love it. I love it. We got to sign out because we're over it again.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. And I know there's way more we could keep going and talking about. But we're going to, we'll eventually wander off of our core topic here. And that's for another time.
Yes,
right?
that's for another time. So,
okay.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I'm signing us out. Thanks for keeping it real. At Real People with Stephanie Allensworth and Kat, thank you so much for being here and talking and sharing your heart with us. You opened it up, honey.
My true pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see you next time.